to be part of this event this morning together with all of you. 1 year ago, I was also here at this event, sharing with you the roadmap of the IT BPM industry for the next 3 years. And I think it was only a week before the lockdowns. We were then recalling proudly how our industry was able to help propel the growth of our country's economy in the 2 decades of our existence. We talked about how our industry was able to change the face of Metro Manila and many other cities around the country like Cebu, Davao, Clark, Iloilo, and many others. We talked about how our industry was able to help improve millions of lives with the job opportunities that we were able to offer, and therefore also supported the growth of several other industries like transport, retail, housing, travel, and hospitality, not to mention the thousands of micro enterprises that our employees and BPO players supported throughout the country. We talked about how we were able to put the Philippines in the global map for professional services, supporting thousands of international big logos. We said that we generated billions of dollars of revenue every year, second only to OFW remittances that really help our economy grow. We talked about prospects for further growth in employment and revenue. And I showed you this slide that clearly shows a growth trend where we see employment generation of around 280,000 jobs by 2022 and reaching a revenue of $32 billion by 2022 as well. 1 year after, here's what actually happened. Comparing 2019 and 2020 numbers, you will see flat growth in the industry in 2020. We didn't gain more jobs. It's still 1.3 million. And revenue even dipped slightly to 26.2 billion. Our flat growth is, of course, because of the pandemic and because of the global recession. Due to the pandemic, recording a flat growth is actually an achievement in itself. And here's a slide that shows you the journey of our industry when the lockdown started until the end of the year. We are fortunate to have been included among the essential industries and therefore allowed to operate, but that needed us to pivot to a very different work model, which we have not done significantly before. We needed to do a blend of work from home and work at office. And in the first 2 months of the lockdowns, our productivity was only around 50% as an industry because we were still trying to stabilize our operations. But luckily, we were able to improve gradually, and by the end of 2020, as an industry, we were achieving 95% productivity. And we really acknowledge the support that we got from our partners in government. PEZA was a huge help in giving us the privilege to be able to work from home significantly. DTI was always there with the guidelines to make sure that movement of people and equipment was allowed, especially in the early days. And of course, the guidelines of DOLE and the DOH to make sure that our people working at the offices were also safe. And that was a lot of help. We are really grateful that despite of the pandemic, the IT BPM sector continues to be a pillar of our economy in terms of the government's priority of jobs creation and jobs retention. Jobs Street said that we are the most active in terms of jobs recruitment. Looking at new investments, PEZA has recorded new investments into our space in 2020, regardless of the pandemic. And I think this is supported by information that comes from Lichu Properties that in terms of office space take up, the BPO industry was also getting the majority of the share at almost 50%. To remain being a pillar of the economy, our industry association, IBPAP, leads with initiatives to make sure that our industry's competitiveness does not suffer regardless of the pandemic. It is widely recognized that the Filipino talent is the major factor to our continued competitiveness, and therefore the industry would like to ensure that the flow of talent to the industry as required by our players continue to be there. And therefore we had established partnerships with different government agencies in terms of holding career awareness fair so that people know that there are job opportunities waiting for them in the industry. With DOLE and OWA, we wanted to open a window for which returning overseas Filipinos will have an opportunity to be part of the BPM talent pool. And for the continued learning of our current workers in the industry, we have set up or opened an IT BPM school, and there are 3 specialized learning paths that they can choose from. And of course, considering the huge changes in our business landscape and the trends in the global market, we want to make sure that our workers are continued to be upskilled, and we have a number of programs patterned after the best in the region so that we can generate more talent at scale for our industry. A conducive and business-friendly environment is crucial to our industry players, and therefore as an industry, we make sure that we are proactive and are involved in the discussions both in the executive and legislative branches of government to make sure that our interests and points of view are taken into account. And there are a couple of very prominent matters that continue to be discussed in the industry circles, and you are very familiar with our guidelines on work from home, which we continue to discuss with PEZA. And another, of course, is CREATE. It's not been signed into law, but this early, we make sure that we are part of the industry where inputs for the IRR are being given to the right parties. Having recorded flat growth in 2020 and with COVID still there, where do we see our industry going in the next couple of years? And I share here a slide of our headcount and revenue projections from a baseline of 1.3 million in 2020 in terms of headcount. We're looking at generating 130,000 jobs more when 2022 comes. And on the revenue side, we're looking at achieving more than 29 billion US dollars of revenue coming from what we met in 2020, which was 26.2 billion US dollars. To achieve our growth targets, we have identified 5 imperatives and initiatives that need to be put in place. Some of these have already been discussed in previous forums as this are part of our roadmap, but there are a couple that have gained importance and prominence because of how they have affected our BPO industry. And I am talking about accelerating digital transformation that would need a massive push and support from both the executive and legislative branches of government to ensure the continued competitiveness of the country as a viable destination for investments. And the other is fortifying the IT BPM ecosystem. And again, this needs huge support in terms of ensuring that projects for telecommunications and transportation improvement will be fast-tracked. And this should not only be in the metropolis, but in other parts of the nation as well, so that the whole country can play host to many other opportunities in the BPO industry and other sectors as well. I have detailed slides on the 5 initiatives, but there's no need at this time to discuss them. But there's one that I'd like to highlight to you as I think this is important. The IBPAP has participated in tripartite programs of government to support the vaccine rollout plan. And we have been working with GoNegosyo and ICTSI to be able to procure vaccines from AstraZeneca, Moderna, Novavax, and most recently Covaxin. With our participation, we hope that we can help support the government's efforts to bring back normalcy, hopefully, to the economy. That's where we are at and where we hope to be in the next 2 years. And I'm confident that we are going to get there. I've said this before and I'll say this again, that we don't leave our growth and welfare to chance. During this pandemic, we have responded to disruptions and challenges as one. And we show the best of who we are, regardless of the difficulties that we faced, regardless of the uncertainties that we feared, regardless of the setbacks that came our way. We remained strong and we continued to be a pillar of this economy. We held the economy afloat in probably the most trying situation in our economic history. And I'd like to use this forum to thank the people who have helped us with this remarkable achievement. To our partners in government, PEZA, DTI, BOI, DOLE, for their support. For the BPO players and players who have made sure that they operated and have kept the jobs in the country. But most of all, to the Filipino BPO workers with their grit and resilience in trying to make working from home work, regardless of the disruptions in their home life. I thank you and grateful for your continued work. And to Rebecca and Richard, thank you for this opportunity to speak with our industry. Salamat.